How would you feel knowing that the government that is supposed to protect us from certain kinds of terrorists are only doing the bare minimum to do so? I had a New York Times article that was titled "A New Kind of Warfare," and it basically explained how cyber warfare is becoming an increasingly more dangerous form of warfare in the United States and how the government is slowly reacting to it. In this speech, I will explain that I do agree with the general idea that the author presents about the rising threat of cybersecurity, but I do not agree with how the government is planning to approach and how slowly they are battling cybersecurity. And with how serious of an issue it is, cyber attacks are on the rise more and more, and they're even becoming more sophisticated in the United States even within the last year. That was my main argument. One of my supporting arguments that there's too many facts and no immediate response of the government in this article. It basically lays out, the author gives more claims of fact and statistics more than anything, which is pointless because what's the point of putting it all over the internet and letting us read it? Because by the time we get it, and by the time we read it, and by the time we read all these statistics, it could already be too late for us. If anything, there should have been more information about what the government tells us they're going to do than about what's already happened to other countries that haven't taken the initiative against cyber warfare. The author also states something pretty disturbing, that the latest step occurred in the United States, sent out a bid for technology that could destroy, deny, and disrupt an attempt for an enemy to use cyberspace as an advantage. That's actually quite disturbing to hear, because that means that our government has pretty much asked for help to acquire software that can fight the cyber warfare attacks that we so often talk about and don't really have a plan to stop. And that definitely makes us susceptible to a cyber attack, and those are much more harmful than we can think. Here's some alarming, my second point would just be some statistics and information that pretty much backs up that the government does not see this as a priority. In the article, the author tells us that as well as China, Russia, Great Britain, and Israel, as well as us, began developing systems to counter a cyber attack over 10 years ago, and even farther than that, but the first cyber attack was recorded over 15 years ago. This kind of doesn't really add up, because why would our country wait so long and leave us so vulnerable to somebody taking over our entire communication systems as well as our military operation systems? Because that was actually the first recorded attack, was someone trying to take over our military operation systems. Also got a quote from Adam Levine. He wrote a CBS article titled "Congress' Profound Failure on Cybersecurity." He says in the article that the government's approach to recent cybersecurity can be summed up into one phrase, and that is that they kick the can down the road. This simply means that instead of tackling the issue straightforward, instead for a number of years, we would just find ways to just to kind of go around it, and we would avoid the issues, and the government would never really give any solutions about what they were going to do. They would kind of just avoid all the questions and just, I guess, give excuses and ways that they would just work around it. In another article I found, it's called "Cyber Attacks on the Rise" in 2011, author Douglas Birch explains that cyber break-ins as well as attempted attacks are becoming more sophisticated, with better hacker software being used than even as recent as just 1 year ago. And that's also pretty scary to hear, because if hacker software is increasingly becoming better in just 1 year, and the fact that our government seems to be in no rush to fix it, taking years just to give any kind of any kind of solution or update on what we've been doing, how do we know this is not a matter of time before it becomes too complex for us to stop? Sometimes people don't understand the amount of damage that a cyber attack can do, but when our own government is aware of exactly what a hacker could do to take control of, and they are still not willing to make more drastic moves to stop it, that's definitely very disturbing. So in conclusion, the author does a great job laying out all the claims of fact, value, and policy, and explaining all the information that the government has given us. But I, as well as hopefully every other American in this entire nation, would like to see more claims of policy, or how the government is going to better fight against something as serious as a cyber attack that could devastate our whole country.